Hi everyone, this is Mr. Trio, and today we're talking about paper number 2, Breath Studies, tackling B questions. And these questions are usually structured as explain 2 causes. So this particular presentation focuses on how to answer causes questions. Once again, just as a reminder, it doesn't matter if you are studying B1, America, New Nation to Divided Union, or B3, Japan in Transformation. This presentation is created for the question and how to answer it, opposed to the specific content. However, today's sample question will come from section B6, the changing nature of warfare and international conflict. This is the marking scheme. It's a B question, so that means it's 8 marks, and it is evenly divided 4 marks and 4 marks. 4 marks for knowledge and understanding, and then 4 marks for explanations, analysis, judgments, and second-order concepts. Here's some basics that you need to know. As I mentioned, it's 8 marks. You have to list 2 causes. So the way that this marking scheme is set up is that even if you were to answer great with 1 cause, the highest mark that you could receive is a 4. And I always instruct my students to prepare 2 clear paragraphs. 1 paragraph for the first cause, 1 paragraph for the second cause. Now, just as a reminder, what is a cause? The garden variety definition, and this one is from Cambridge, the reason why something, especially something bad, happens. I don't know about the especially bad part. I suppose that there could be some good causes, but we'll keep that in mind as we look at this presentation. The question is always focused on an event or a person, which is one of the key vocabulary words for the 5 units, and thus a cause on our historical timeline would come before the vocabulary word, and that's an important thing to remember. If you're talking about something that happens after the vocabulary word, that's called an effect, and you shouldn't talk about those in this response. That's a paper 1 question, not to confuse it with this particular one, which is specifically about cause. So if we were to look at a silly example, explain 2 causes for a chick, then, you could focus on the egg or the hen and the rooster. That would be a cause. But if you go into some discussion about a bucket of chicken joy, then that's after the fact. So that would not pertain to a valid response. One of the things that I push a lot is the idea of using second-order concepts. So you have to talk about the cause moving forward using those second-order concepts like causation, change, continuity, or significance in order to get to the vocabulary word, which is in your question. So there may be some need to do a little bit of paper doodling or working out the question before you actually start to answer it. I like an approach in which you break it into short-term and long-term. And one of the things that you can usually look at for causes is that short-term incidents often help to set things off and get some type of an event happening. However, that event which happens is often as a result of long-term causes. And if you pair your 1 and 2 causes into a short-term and long-term, then that's one of the effective ways to respond in the most appropriate manner. So short-term often is a traumatic event which happens right before the vocabulary word. Long-term events often tend to be more systemic problems that lead to an eventual event. The other way to think about it also is primary, the most significant reason why something happens, and secondary. And we'll talk about this in just a minute with our example. However, if we think about the war on terror, everyone would agree that the events of 9/11 were the primary reason why the war on terror began. The events of things like the bombing of the USS Cole certainly were secondary reasons or long-term reasons. So hopefully you can see how those two are related to each other. I have a list of 9 items here. These are just some general ideas to start you thinking about causes. Often causes, especially for units such as international wars and such, an attack or assassination may be a cause that sets things into motion. It could be a natural disaster. Systemic social issues sometimes are long-standing issues. It could be a new piece of legislation, a new policy, new leadership. Someone comes to power, and that's the cause of significant change. A new discovery. Think of this if you're studying the medicine topic. A new discovery could be a cause that leads to different events. We have elections, which are often causes for changes, and then community needs. If a community has a need for something, such as a medical breakthrough or something along those lines, that could be a long-term issue. One of the things to be careful of is not to connect causes to things which are unrelated. So, for example, sneezing does not cause a typhoon to occur. Don't try to butterfly effect your response in which you're trying to connect things which are too desperately related to each other. The other thing which is problematic is if we were to look once again at the question, explain 2 causes of the War of Terror from the B6, the changing nature of warfare and international conflict, don't say that the primary reason was the changing nature of warfare, and then the secondary reason was international conflict. You have to be more specific. Don't just give the title in which you are studying. You have to give a specific example of the changing nature of warfare or a specific example of 2 nations which were at conflict with one another. If we were to look at that question, explain 2 causes of the war on terror, then the best approach is to begin with the definition. The War on Terror was authorized initiative, the use of military force against terrorists of the Bush administration of September of 2001. Essentially, tell the reader that you understand what the word is which you are supposed to create the causes for. Then explain what your first cause is. In this particular example, I used the primary cause as the way to structure this. The primary cause for the action was the terrorist attacks in New York City at the Twin Towers and the attack on the Pentagon building in Arlington, Virginia. Now, that's all good and fine, but remember, you also have to add that second order concept and further analysis. I'm doing it in a different color here so it just pops out a little bit more, but notice how I use that second order concept. These attacks were significant because of the extreme loss of life and destruction. The events of September 11, 2001 served as a rallying cry for Bush administration in order to get the authorization approved by the U.S. Congress. So this would be 4 marks out of 8 because you are providing that knowledge and understanding plus the analysis using the second order concept. And the second cause I put on the secondary level, in which the first one is primary, the second one is secondary. And once again, you can pause at this point if you want to read the whole response, but it's essentially a very straightforward answer. Once again, I think I've done this from other videos. I put these two things side by side. Essentially, it's the same information. But one of the things that I want everyone to think about is also structure, not only just the content in which you are providing. By putting the primary cause with the analysis directly underneath it, it ties it better together than trying to put all the causes at the top and then all of the analysis at the bottom. So I would recommend the model on the left over the model on the right. Thank you for joining me for this series. I hope that you can find other resources. There's a great section on the Pearson website where you can download a variety of different resources. Thank you for joining me today.